Hello and welcome back to another episode of Widow Talk, real conversations about the stuff people just don't talk about. My name is Lauren. I've been widowed 10 years and I am one of the founders of First Light Widowed Association. Tonight we are doing our very first group chat and we will be focusing on the experience of being widowed young, specifically in your 20s and 30s. Joining me tonight are two fellow young widows. We have Kat. Kat, where are you based?
I'm in Adelaide.
Excellent. I'm in Queensland. And we have Brooke. Brooke, where are you based?
I'm from Sydney.
Excellent. So you're in lockdown. I'm in lockdown. Kat, what's your situation?
We just have to wear masks at the moment.
Yeah. We had that yesterday, and now we're in lockdown. So we'll wait and see.
Good luck. Good luck to you both.
Fingers crossed for you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just get into it. I will have you introduce yourself. So if you could tell me, we'll start with Brooke. If you could tell our viewers your partner's name, how old you were when you lost him, how long you've been widowed, and how old you were when you were widowed. That's a lot. So, see if you can remember that.
See if I can remember it all. So my partner's name is Heath. He passed away in January 2020. So he was 38, I was 34 at the time when he died. Gotta remember what else you asked me. So we were together for 8 years.
Yes. And the death was a sudden death. He was in good health before then.
So he died of a sudden cardiac arrest and was in good health before then. So it was quite a shock. And we'd been together for 8 years when he died. And we were engaged and due to get married probably in 2021.
I'm so sorry. Kat, welcome. So can you tell me a little bit of your story, please, who you lost and when you lost them, how old you were when you lost them?
Yeah. So I lost my husband, Ricky, in January 2019. It was a very sudden and unexpected asthma attack that happened in the middle of the night. He was 29 at the time. I was 28 and turned 29 shortly after. We'd been married since 2015 and been together since 2013 and built a big life here. He was from America, so we had a pretty solid life, just us two together here. And yeah.
And his family are still based in America?
Yeah, they're all in America. I'm really close with one of my sister-in-laws, a couple of them, but one in particular that we keep in contact with regularly. So that's nice to have that contact, even though they are all the way in America. But
absolutely, yeah. So for those of you who haven't met me before, I lost my husband unexpectedly as well 10 years ago to suicide, but he did have quite the prolonged struggle with mental health problems, mainly diagnosed depression. Okay, so we're all young widows and we were all widowed unexpectedly, which tends to be how it goes when you are widowed at this uniquely young age. So I thought maybe we could talk a bit about what it's like to be widowed so young when we're meant to have our future all ahead of us. I know I had very specific plans, and I find what I grieve is what the life that we never actually got to have. There were experiences, but not as many experiences as other widows or other couples. So who would like to go first? Would anyone like to share some of the plans that they've had difficulty letting go of? Brooke, I know that you, of course, were engaged and planning a wedding.
Yeah, so we were planning probably on getting married in 2021. So that was, I think, when you lose someone so quickly and so suddenly, it's a bit like someone's kind of removed the floor from underneath your feet.
Yeah.
And for me, the months after was basically me walking on thin air trying to find the floor again. It throws just everything about your life up in the air. And you know, the marriage, you know, the wedding was one of those things, but even just all the plans we had, like saving up for a house, buying a house together,
Yeah.
you know, all these things that, you know, as the initial shock wears off, you kind of grieve things gradually one after the other as you realize, oh, you know, we'll never get to take another trip overseas again. We'll never get
Yes.
to, you know, all those things that you just took for granted a day before that would happen, and that you had time and things like that, that all of a sudden you start grieving those things. So all the grief doesn't happen in one hit. It just, one thing
Exactly.
after another, as you realize it, you kind of experience it again and again. It's like a little kick in the guts every time.
Absolutely. I mean, I was widowed at 26. And so I think in your 20s and 30s, it's that stage where people take big steps forward with their partner. And I watched a lot of our friends and family start to take those steps forward. And I was happy for them, but really devastated for me and devastated for James. Kat, what are your experiences there with the grieving the plans that you never got to have or realize with your partner?
I think like Brooke was saying, it's that constant, like the little things that come up that you would have done together, or like we fortunately bought a house together, and we got married and stuff, which was an amazing wedding, and I loved our house, but there was so much we wanted to do to the house and do it together. And, you know, like I got new flooring, and I look at it now and go, oh, I wish he could have been here to see that, because it was such a big change. And it's just those changes in the house that you kind of, that I just wish he could have been there for. Or I just got a new bathroom, and that's the one room that he hated the most. And so it's bittersweet. It's a very bittersweet feeling of being like, oh, it's so nice to be done, but I wish they were there for that. Or that sort of that constant thing of like even work as well. I changed jobs about a year after Ricky passed, and it was great, but it was one of those things that I know he would have been so proud of and pushed me to go to do, and he was a huge motivator. So it's just those things that you just feel like they missed out on those life achievements. And yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I'm a bit further down the road in this widow life, but I've struggled with, at various pockets, moments of anger and jealousy, because I see other people get to have, like my siblings get to have what James and I didn't get to have, or friends. For me, the plan that was really hard to let go of was having children with James. So for both of you, have you ever had any moments of feeling a bit angry and jealous because others get to have what you wanted or planned to have? And what was the plan that was the hardest to let go of? Brooke.
Yeah, I think I would say jealousy or anger, as much as I'd say it's like frustration for me when people don't realize what they've got. Like when they complain, oh, you know, complain about little things. And I know to them, I don't I think their complaints are legitimate, but you sit there and think these are such little things, and you've got a living, breathing spouse with you, and you just don't see what you've got. And I find it so frustrating. And I sit there and think I'd give anything to have that back with Heath. And,
exactly.
I find that really frustrating sometimes, but I'm really careful to listen to my friends and to them, with their perspective and what they've gone through in life. That is a big deal to them. And I guess it's something that you gain through that journey of being a young widow that a lot of people your age don't have, is that perspective of, how quickly things can be taken from you.
Absolutely. I find that I'm that friend now when people are, and I love it, I'm happy to do it, but I'm that friend that people, when they've lost someone or there's been a big, unexpected life change, I can give them, advice, or give people advice on how to give them space or how to listen to them. But I would still rather not be that evolved and have James back and be a selfish bitch in a heartbeat. So, but
me too,
there are definitely
100%.
there are definitely gifts though that or strengths that we get from this experience. Kat, what about you? Was there any plan that was especially hard to let go of?
Like I guess the kids thing was always hard. We didn't we were always the couple that said, not yet, not yet.
Yeah.
But it was like, you know, we'd say to each other, oh, because I've got curly hair normally, and so does he. And we were like, we're going to have a curly haired baby. And we'd make all these jokes about it. And, you know, he'd be like, that kid's going to get nothing past me. So there was always talk about it. And it was just one of those things that was like, you know, we've got time. And then that just went. Like, it just felt like it got ripped from me. Like, the choice didn't, like, I feel like I didn't have the choice then. Like, it just, that was hard.
Yeah. And have you had moments of jealousy, anger, frustration when you look at
I'd
other couples in your world?
I think it took some time to get rid of that bitter sort of feeling, I think. And I think for a while there, I was the friend that people would go to because, you know, they were grieving something, or, you know, like, I was automatically that person they thought they could go to about that stuff, which was fine, but it got tiring.
Yeah. And I think it's like, I feel capable to do that and be that friend now, but I've been doing this for 10 years and I haven't remarried, and I don't plan to. But yeah, I was certainly not, I wouldn't give out good advice at 18 months or within the first 3 years. I was a very, very angry woman back then. Oh dear. Okay. So I wanted to talk a bit now about, because we're widowed so young, and well-meaning friends, family, but even just society at large wants us to be fixed, wants us to get back to normal. And part of that is moving on. For me, that was finding a new husband, getting out there and dating ASAP. Don't dwell on all this widow stuff. Get out there and find someone so you can marry and have children. Because yes, that was something that I really want, but I didn't just want, at the time, I didn't just want children with anyone. You know, not being able to have James's children was a big loss for me. So have you, well, I'm sure you have, please share your experiences of the pressure to, come on, let's go, let's get on with things. Brooke.
Yeah, so similar to, so I've had a bit of a mix actually. So yeah, some people, you know, quite soon after he died, like even months after it, oh, you're young, you'll find someone else.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, it's almost like my refrigerator had broke down.
Yeah,
just
go get a new one.
Yeah, go shop for a new refrigerator. And I'm lucky. I've had some really supportive and really good friends, but society, we're a world of fixes. And I think for most people, it comes from a really lovely place where they don't want to think of people being sad. And I think death is a real irreversible thing where you can't fix it. There's no coming back from it. It's permanent. You know, there's nothing more absolute than death. And I think when people can't fix that, they kind of try and fix the things around the person. And it was really frustrating at first, but I came to learn it wasn't actually about me. It was about them feeling better and them feeling more comfortable.
Yes,
but yeah,
so true.
Yeah, it was, you know, things like get out and get dating. I sat on Tinder once and I was very underwhelmed.
Yeah, that's not where you go. Yeah, I've done that research. It's no.
Thanks for
no, I was like, you know, if nothing else, I had a laugh.
Yes,
certainly not something I'm not looking into at this point. Even things like, you know, people wanting you to be happy or expecting you to, you know, I think people don't understand the degree to which losing your spouse really changes everything, like everything in your life. You know, your spouse is so integrated, entwined into your life that, you know, people kind of think, oh, you know, oh, you're still having bad days. Oh,
yes, yeah,
like
is that still a problem? I've been told.
Yeah, and even like, you know, grieving too much or grieving too little. Like, if you grieve too much, it's a problem. Grieve too little, it's a problem. Like, and depending on the person you talk to, where the too much and the too little sits is. So it's kind of, you have to try and detach yourself from what people think of you a lot, because it's kind of like it's a no-win thing really, and it can get
Yeah,
so frustrating and add, when you've already got so much going on, it can add so much, you know, so much extra to what you're already going through if you're worrying about keeping other people happy and,
exactly.
your reputation, and
Yeah.
it's really not in your control ultimately.
Oh gosh, no. It's like,
Yeah.
it to me, grief has just been turning on a tap. And sometimes, the water flows, it's like a tsunami, and then other days it's a trickle, and I can't predict what it's going to be, So, yeah, it's not something that you can control. Kat, what about you?
I think one of the big ones for me was, I think after I hit 12 months, there was this weird expectation that you're over it now, or
Yeah,
it's been a year, you're good now. And then when 2 years hit, I think that really mentally for me was hard, because it was that even more thing of, oh, you're still upset by that. That was the general sort of feeling after
yeah,
2 years, which to me it felt like yesterday still, and it still does.
yes. Was New
And so
Year's
that,
hard for you
like,
guys when the
it's
when the
like
new
you're on a
year ticked over?
timeline.
Was New Year's
Yeah.
hard when it ticked over and
Yeah.
you were like, they didn't exist, and now people are going to expect me? That happened last year, so now they're going to expect me to be
Yep.
fixed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
felt the pressure
Like,
down big time.
yeah, it is. It's really hard. Like, it's like this weird timeline that you should be on. Like, you're at 12 months now, so you're good, right? Move on.
Yes. Yeah, I think
But
it's
yeah,
actually
as
written
we
in
know, there's no
some.
timeline.
No, but I think it's written in in the DSM that anything beyond 12 months is considered complicated grief. So like
Yeah.
a medical issue or psychological issue, and it's just like it's just like they need to fix that, because that is incorrect.
Yeah.
So Kat, how did the second year differ for you from the first?
I think the
What was
first
the
year was
feeling?
the first year felt like a blur. Like, it was just getting by. That feeling of just trying to get by day to day. There was a lot of, it was very emotional. I think the second year was harder for me, because it was like reality had kicked in. Like,
Yeah.
it had before, but it was a much harder reality, I think, of being like, wow, it's been 2 years. My life has changed so much, and they weren't there to see it. Like, it's a hard feeling. I think I really struggled with that one, actually.
Yes. Yeah. So with this extra pressure of, get through it in 12 months and then start rebuilding your life quick, do you find, like, I've certainly found as a younger widow, that pressure and those expectations from others, it felt like people were shooing away my grief, or just kind of dismissing it as though you weren't together that long. You were only married a year and a half. You were newlyweds, and you were only together 5.5 years.
Yeah.
Like, people measure things in time, and they're so rigid with it. But again, as we've discussed, you're grieving for the time that you never got to have. And sometimes I find, there's this, we all do this, we compare our grief. But sometimes I feel like people that are grieving, whether it be a parent, a spouse that they were married to much longer, see it as like, well, you've got really no excuse to go on, pick yourself up, get out there. Like, I lost my soulmate. That's been said to me by some other widowed people, like that they lost their soulmate because they had that time to be soulmates. And it just makes me feel like sometimes my relationship is dismissed and my grief is dismissed. You're nodding, so please, like, can anyone
I've
add to
had
that or share?
someone compare a divorce and say they would have rather their husband died than got a divorce, and I was like, let's not compare this. So, and then someone else compare their dog dying, and yet again, I mean, that's sad, but it's not a comparison that you need to make. And then I've had other people also do that. Oh, but look at that old couple. It's so sad to see them pass because they had a lifetime together. I'm like, it's that dismissive feeling for sure.
Yeah. And even some people that suggest, well, you might, like, lots of people divorce. Like James did have a mental illness. Maybe you guys would have divorced. And I'm just like, what are you meant to say to that?
Yeah.
Brooke, what were you going to say?
Yeah, like I call it the grief ruler. It's like someone gets out the ruler and goes,
Yes.
it's this,
I love that. I
get
love
the
that.
grief ruler out. And it's just so unhelpful. And I really don't get what the point of it is, because grief
No.
is such an individual thing. But yeah, I've had some interesting comparisons. And a couple of months ago, I got the old line, oh, but isn't it better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all? And I was going, oh, I was waiting for this one.
The cliches and the platitudes are just so empty. And
But yeah, I think, and it's really interesting because, yeah, it is that grief for what you haven't had together, and, the repeated grief that you get at different milestones when they're not there and should have been. And I think the other thing as well, when I've actually spoken to a few elderly widows, and interestingly, they've been the ones least likely to get the grief ruler out. And I found I had a lot more in common with them than what I had different with them in a way, different challenges. But I think it's really interesting
so good to hear.
that, it's the non-widowed people that tend to get the ruler out than what it is the widowed people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess I should preface even before I signed up to help build this organization, I dipped my toes in a widow support group that will remain unnamed. And I had a really bad experience where they were much older than me. And I think that their loss was fresh and they were in that very angry stage of grief. And some people felt frustrated that I was there, or that I was indulging my grief. I think that word was actually used, that stop indulging it. Like, you're young, just get back out there. You're pretty. You'll find someone real quick. But me, I'm at the end of my life, and and that was my first experience. So I of course don't write my widowed community off at all. But that was a tricky one. Divorcees, though, comparing themselves to our losses, it's a tricky one. You're going through a hard time
for it.
No, that's it.
And it's such a difference, for divorcees, the relationship has ended, there's a conclusion to that. But when you lose your spouse suddenly, there's no conclusion. Like, I didn't get to say, there was no goodbyes for us, while they were alive. Whereas, a divorce, there's a kind of concrete end to that relationship. And that's really difficult too. It's like an open, unfinished book.
And seeing as though we all lost our partners unexpectedly, do you think about the last time that you spent with them much? Because the last time I was with James, we were having an argument, and I basically told him I didn't want to talk to him anymore, and I was off sulking. And so that's been a struggle.
That must
so tough.
It's been a hard one. And like, suicide grief, it comes with all sorts of potholes and buckets of shit. But did you have was it a fond memory, or was it just a regular day? If you don't mind sharing. Sorry, this was an unplanned question that I've thrown in there.
Okay. For me, it's almost an eerie memory because it was so normal. So he was walking out the door to work, and I said, Bib, did you remember your lunch? And as always, it was no. So I was home that day, so I went and grabbed his lunch and pretty much chucked it at him halfway down the hallway, gave him a kiss and said, Bubby, see you tonight. And so when he passed away in the doorway to our apartment coming home. So that was the last, and a few messages throughout the day on Facebook Messenger, but I replay it a lot. And
Yeah.
like it's got this eerie tinge to it when I remember it, because I just sit there and think, little did we know, like little did we know. Yeah.
That's it. Kat,
Yeah,
what
I'm
was
probably exactly the same, really. Like, it was a Friday night. I'd got home, and it was our normal. We were so excited for weekends because it just meant it was us two together. Like, and we were just so clingy. Like, we were that codependent couple. So it was like
I
we
love
knew
that.
we were going to be together, and like have the weekend, and like I'd go to bed, and he'd always be up throughout the night because he had the most ridiculous sleep routine. And so it was just a normal Friday night. And I think, like Brooke was saying, it's that weird feeling because it was so normal, and I went to bed not, why would you think otherwise? And then
Exactly.
Yeah.
I ended up being awake before he had the asthma attack, which was weird because I don't know why I was awake at 3 a.m. But I woke up and was like, oh, I'll go see what Ricky's doing, which I normally would do. And it was just one of those normal things. And then half an hour after that, it happened. So I was right there. And that was, unfortunately, my last memory now is, there was CPR and waiting for ambulances and all that sort of traumatic stuff that goes with it.
Oh, that's so traumatic. Yeah.
So it's hard because that's your final memory, and the final way you see them. So you try and sort of detach from that and think of that normal Friday night that could have been. And it actually hurts on Friday night sometimes, going home and being like, this is it. This is it now. Like, I don't do anything, it's just me at home. And it's a weird feeling because it brings back a lot, even just the Friday nights.
Me too. Heath died on a Friday night as well.
Yeah.
So
there's magic in Friday nights. For couples.
I still feel yuck on Fridays.
Yeah. My husband died on a Monday, of all days. Thanks, James. But I do remember in the first 2 years, Friday nights being so painful. I would dread them. Saturdays weren't great either, but there was just this anxiety of Friday night because we knew we had the weekend together, and you're kind of just a bit more relaxed and chill, or you go out and do something, or you're talking about the plans that you've got for Saturday. There's some special magic on Friday, and they sting a lot. In those first few years. Sorry, ladies, but I will say, though, as an older, more experienced widow, that once you get to my stage, like the good memories back in the day used to level me. When I'd go somewhere and a happy memory would come back vividly, and I would just have to excuse myself. I'd cry. It would be really hard. But now, good memories pop up, and the ones that you feel and it's like, oh my gosh, it was like that happened yesterday. And they don't bring me to my knees anymore. Like, it's actually really, really nice. And I can tell my little boy, he doesn't understand anything, but I can share my little memory with him, and it's kind of, or the funny ones, you laugh at them. Like, time doesn't take the loss away, and you never really move on. You carry it, you live with it, and you can live well with it. But there's some positive things that come with the memories again when you're further down the road. And so I hope, have you had any of those pop up, or do they still really hurt at this stage?
I get them pop up, and I think at first I went into this kind of, I work clinically, so I kind of went into this mode when it first happened. I'm not a psychologist, but kind of clinically it crosses my path. I didn't want to avoid anything because I didn't want to kind of have things to deal with. So I kind of threw myself headfirst into going to all the places that hurt, and it hurt. It was, to our date spots, I went everywhere, and I was like, no, you're not avoiding these places, you're going. So I think it was like a big band-aid rip at the start where it was really tough. And I still I still do.
I wouldn't have been able to do that.
It was, in hindsight, I'm sure there was probably a better way to do it, but that's the way I went about it. But I think, the odd one pops up that surprises me, and it really does pop up like out of nowhere. I can be sitting at a friend's house, and just a little trigger word, a little phrase or something like that will pop up. Something he'd find really funny will pop up, and I always kind of feel like it's like there's a little gorilla in your chest, and he grabs onto your heart and hangs off it for a little bit. It's that heavy feeling, and I think, you know, you have to really work to kick him off there. And, you know, like, it's a lot of mental work for me to get rid of him once he shows up, because if you let him hang around too long, I find that's when you can really fall deep into it and, you know, have a few bad days. Whereas you can kind of, I'm at a stage at the moment where I can kind of go, look at all the people you've got around that love you, look at all these things you've got going for you, you know, focus on them, and then he drops off, the old grief gorilla.
Kat, what about you? Have there been some positive memories, or what effect are the memories having on you?
Yeah, I think they were hard. I think harder at the start. But I think fortunately for me, I have people around me that want to hear more, like hearing stories. And
that's so good.
I've got my mum and like my parents that are really close, and you know, they were really close with Ricky as well. So I can just go, oh, what about that time that, you know, this happened, and we all laugh about it. Or like, I think fortunately for me, I have that in close relationships around me. Broader than that, I do feel a bit awkward if that memory comes up and I don't want to share it with people, because they get a bit awkward about it, about talking about.
100%.
Yeah, I'm like, I want to talk about him. I want to share these great funny memories, and like, we have some funny times. But I sometimes find I hold back from sharing those because people don't know how to take it, and then they get a bit awkward, and then I get a bit awkward, and it's,
and then you feel like, oh, I should have just not
100%.
said anything because I've ruined the time. And but
and it's
such
tough part
a
about
gift.
being and it's a tough part about being a young widow, because so much talk at parties and things centers around relationships. And you know, kind of, if you've been widowed and you haven't had another partner since, the last relationship you have to talk about is that of your
it's all them.
spouse. And I'm comfortable talking, and I love telling stories, and my close friends and family like yours love hearing the stories. But for general chit chat, when it's acquaintances or workmates, it's kind of hit the point. I've found, like, after the 12-month mark, it gets awkward now. People kind of start looking down and shuffling their dinner around, and it's hard.
Even I started a new job, and they were actually amazing about it and just asked questions, and they were really good. But it's that same time where I still talk about him all the time, and I'm like, no one knows him, or like, but I still want to create that sort of memory. But it's a really fine line of being like, these are all new people, and how far do you, I don't know, it's a fine line of what you say, and I feel like sometimes I tiptoe around it and sometimes I don't. But
I was due to start work at a new school 2 weeks before my husband died. So they held the job for me for a school term, and then I started, and I felt the exact same way. Like, he was still such a central part of my life, and it frustrated me that I had more people in my life that had no connection to James, like on a day-to-day basis, more people that didn't know James, never met him, than what I had people that were feeling the same loss that I was feeling. And so I spoke about him a lot. And there's people that are comfortable with that. They tend to be the ones that have lost someone. And there were definitely those that, weren't good with it. Which brings me to my next topic. The most ridiculous or unhelpful thing that someone has said to you that was maybe intended to make you feel better or give you really helpful advice. Hit me with them.
I've got a book.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
We can publish it and get rich.
my psych did say to me once, let's see what we can add to the book this week of what people have said, because it was just, I think one of the better ones was when I got back to work. I went back to work after 5 weeks, which hindsight I probably needed a bit longer, but again, those pressures from people to maybe go back to normal life and normal routine. But when I did go back to work, and I remember having a day where I was upset, and someone said to me, Kat, it didn't just happen yesterday.
Ooh.
And I was like, I did not throat punch them. did not.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was probably when the more like that felt nastier.
That was
Like,
nasty.
yeah. There's
That was so judgy.
Yeah, yes. And it was so soon, and yeah, it was so dismissive, and it was pretty hard actually. That one was
so it was 5 weeks.
I was back after 5 weeks. This was probably out maybe 2 to 3 months. I was, having a day, because as you do.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I was having days at 4 years, 5 years, it's
Still am.
Sometimes
So,
you sometimes have days. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think the dog comparison is that
Oh
was a
yeah,
bit of a hard
I've had
one.
that. I've had that. And then they try and explain, no, but I was really, really close with this dog. And since I was a baby, we had this dog or their cat. And I'm like,
Sure.
Got it. All right, Brooke, what you got?
What have I got? I'm like kind of trying to sift through to find the best of the best. There's, like, I think the dog cat one is a really big one, and it's always prefaced with, but I was really close. This was my really special one, and I had them for 7 years. It's almost as long as you were. Yeah, they were my support, and I'm like, oh, what was my fiance then?
Yes.
The other thing I think as well was definitely the dating thing. Oh, you should go find somebody. And I had someone who told me as well I should go for a Reiki massage.
Because that'll help make you feel.
Yeah,
take it all away.
It realigns the parts of your brain that are responsible for grief. And apparently I was doing grief wrong. That was probably the Reiki massage.
Oh yeah,
the Reiki massage
are experts. Yeah, experts in your grief, even though they haven't experienced a loss like it before. So.
And sleeping tablets was the other thing, even though I wasn't having any issues sleeping. I was like, am I going to sleep my grief away?
Yeah, sleep for the first year.
Like Sleeping Beauty.
That's how we'll find our next true loves, obviously.
How do you feel about people that use the terms, like, I know it's meant like funny, but that they're a FIFO widow or a golf widow? They never get to spend time with their partner on the weekends because he's always golfing, and so she doesn't have someone to help around the house either. Like, I had someone genuinely say that they can relate to my experience because their husband does FIFO.
No.
And they got me on a bad day, and I kind of let rip a little bit and was like, you get to have this lovely return of your husband, like every 6 weeks, 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off. I was like, James is never coming back. Like, it's never. So yeah, that one was a bit silly. But,
yeah, that's a rough one. I had a friend that probably a couple of weeks after told me, oh, it's so hard. I couldn't sleep last night because my husband wasn't there last night. So it's so hard. I'm so tired. I'm like,
yeah. Tell me about it. Speaking of sleeping, did you guys stay on your side of the bed, or did you shift to their side? I shifted to his side because I wanted to be closer to him. And now every bed I've had since then, I still sleep on his side.
It took me about a year and a bit, and I moved to a new apartment. That was when I finally moved into the center of the bed, but it was just such an ingrained habit to sleep on my side of the bed. But it wasn't until about 9 months in that I even realized that I was still leaving a space in the bed for him. Like, it just,
I still do too. Yeah.
I think I still do mainly, and then I sort of roll over there, and then sometimes it's one of those feelings when you realize, like, it hits you and you're like, oh wait, I'm rolling over to nothing.
Yeah.
But so I find that I still get up and will walk further to go to that side of the bed though. Like, I could just walk to my bed and just get straight in, but I'll always walk right around, go to my side. I don't know, I think it's just a habit. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. I did have one friend, just going back to the things that people say, this wasn't so much something that was said that was mean-spirited. I think it was given to me as advice, that I shouldn't let James's death define me. And initially I was like, well, see you later. But it was from a very, very dear, very, very close friend. And I thought about it as though, like, okay, well, I'm doing my grief wrong then. I'm going to too many support groups and helping build this organization. People obviously think it's doing me harm, then good. But I think some friends just wanted the old me back. Like I had changed. And I have changed a lot. Have you kind of experienced that from people that notice, like, do you notice that you're different? Do other people notice that you're different and kind of miss the old you that thought they were living in this bubble of protection, that this kind of life change couldn't happen?
Yeah, I think I've changed, and it's that perspective shift that comes with realizing that this isn't a thing that just happens to other people. It's something that can happen to any regular person, and the things that you think make up your life and make it stable can just disappear quickly, just like that. I think it's made me, I think, a lot more appreciative of what I've got and long less for what I don't have or what I might want, because in the big picture, a lot of what I did want was kind of just small bickies, really. Like it was little crap. I think a lot bigger picture now. And I think it has changed me a bit. And I kind of, with the whole don't let grief and loss define you, I think, sometimes people use the word define interchangeably with limit you. Like I don't like to think it's something that limits me and what I do in life, but it definitely influences who you are and the decisions you make and a lot of stuff. Like it's a leveler. Like it really just levels everything. And when you have to rebuild everything after everything has just been leveled, you do end up with someone different to the person before the leveling.
Absolutely.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Kat, what about you? Can you see ways that you've changed, or has anyone noticed changes in you?
I mean, for a while, people did say I had attitude. I mean, I did. I was angry. I was,
My husband's dead. Like, I got an attitude about that.
Come on. But I think, like you were saying earlier, Brooke, your whole life changes. Like every aspect of your life has changed. So there is no way I was ever going to be the same person again. I think I'll always carry this with me, and it's like everything has changed. So I don't know how in particular I have changed, but I know I've grown a lot in this time. I think I see things so differently, and that it's just such a different, like you said, different perspective that you look at life now, and the gratefulness of the people you hold around you. And I think I learned a lot of who my true friends were during that time, and I know it's always going to happen during these things.
Absolutely.
Like, it's one of those things that just happen where you will learn. But it was a hard moment at first, realizing who my actual friends were, who wanted the attention from it, who wanted to just be the widow friend, or you know what I mean, like that grief friend or something. And it's trying to I think it helped me define who I actually needed in my life, who was the important ones to have around me, and what I needed from them.
Exactly. I think too, like, the whole, does the loss define you? Choosing to marry James was a life-defining decision. And I think too, so naturally, like as we said, we would go to parties, you socialize with people. What do you talk about? Your spouse and their partner. Oh, I think we've lost Brooke for a sec.
Sorry.
Hopefully she comes back.
Trying to call me. I'm coming back.
Tell them I'm talking to some widows. Get out of here.
Friends I was just talking about.
Their ears were
good
burning. Ones. That's it. But I think it's I think if you do something, positive or meaningful with, the loss, then I'm kind of cool with, losing James definitely defined me. And that's okay. Like it's so much, I find, like swatting opinions over all this. So okay. So I want to end on hopefully a positive note. you know, we're all about bringing hope, community, and understanding. So we do, I think it's very clear we've got things in common, we've got community. Kat, what do you hope for your future?
Oh, that is a hard end question.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have flung that one in.
No, I think it's hard because I want that happiness that everyone else seems to have, or that, you know, I don't plan on finding my next love or anything like that. It's just I had Ricky, and I'm so thankful for that. But I guess I just want that. What he would have wanted for me was to, I guess, have a good life and a good career and a good stability and all that sort of stuff. So I'm really just working towards that and trying to, I guess, in my mind, keep making him proud.
Yes,
I think it's a really big motivator for me, actually.
Yes, I think I've got Brooke back coming into the waiting room. I'll hit her with the big question. She's back. Hello, hello. So I threw a bit of a doozy question at the end.
Sorry.
So what do you hope for your future?
Wow, that's a big one.
Yeah, sorry. I probably should have.
No. It's a really good one. I think, I hope that I can find love again. I believe I can. And I think, you know, finding love again doesn't, you know, it doesn't kind of put down the love I had with Heath at all. And I hope that's something I get to experience again in a lifetime when I'm ready.
Yes.
I hope, you know, that I can go on and still do all the things that I wanted to do, and that Heath supported me so much with when he was alive. So, you know, all my musical theatre exploits and my
yes, I saw that on
my
Facebook.
work, my work.
That's
stuff
awesome.
that I like doing. You know, he was such a big supporter for me that, you know, and even my art stuff, which he was always hassling me to do more of. I hope I can kind of do that stuff. I think that's a really good way of keeping his memory alive, and I hope I can kind of carry him with me in a positive way, so the memories are a positive one. I always hate the thought of, you know, people thinking that the legacy left behind was a heartbroken widow. I think,
or a
even
shadow over your life. Yeah,
you know, I kind of want to take him with me always, you know, until the end, but not have it be this memory of this horrible thing, you know, the last 2 hours of it, which, you know, at the start is a really overshadowing thing, that last 2 hours with everything that goes on when someone dies of a heart attack. I'd rather take with me, you know, all the stuff that he gave me and the way he shaped me as a person, and take that on and keep his memory alive in that respect, rather than, you know, I think what sometimes people do define as the define yourself with grief thing, you know, I'd rather keep it with me and keep him with me in that respect, but in a way that honors the spectacular man that he was.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you so much for joining me tonight to talk about what it's like to be widowed so young. And yeah, I know that all good things, all those things that you hope for, will be yours. I've certainly found that, I'm living the best life and still fulfilling the plans, the big plans that we intended for our life. And I'm sure your spouses would be proud of you, and I've got a good feeling that James is proud of me. He better be, dickhead. Anyway,
I hope he's proud of me too.
He absolutely would be.
Hope I'm doing the right thing for you, babe.
Yes. Oh, look, Brooke, you are shining light. You're so positive. And I would encourage you. I was involved in theatre and the arts as well, and it's something I actually let go of when I lost James. And I haven't really stepped back into that world, but I would definitely encourage you to stay there, because theatre is life. Theatre is life. I know.
It's never too late to go back. It's like riding a bike.
Well, I perform in front of my students every day, so you know they get the show. Ladies, thank you so much. And to all of our viewers, please check out our website, www.firstlight.org.au. If you are widowed or you know someone who is widowed, please check out our Widow Talk library, or you can check out some of our resources there for people who are widowed at all stages of life, but also if you know someone and want to know how to best support someone close to you who is widowed. So thank you, Brooke. Thank you, Kat. And thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
Lauren.
night.
Bye.
All right,
Good night.